The stars looked cold that night. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of the Terra's Hope. Outside, the void stretched forever, blackness broken only by the thin white glow of distant suns. His crew was restless. 3 weeks of patrolling the edge of human space without action, 3 weeks of staring into nothing. Even Jake felt the boredom digging into him. Then Amy Rodriguez spoke. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange." Her voice snapped through the silence like a whip. Jake turned his head fast. Amy had been his communications officer for 2 years. She never spoke without reason. "What do you have?" Jake asked, his voice steady but his heart quickening. Amy's brown eyes flickered across her glowing screen. "A signal, sir, but not ours. It's different, not using any human frequencies. The pattern is—" She stopped, searching for words. "Alien." The bridge filled with silence again, heavier now. Jake rose from his chair and walked to her station. The signal was a jagged line across her console, pulses of light and sound repeating in strange intervals. Not random, too clean, too deliberate. "Where it coming from?" Jake asked. Amy checked. 2 hours away at our speed, right on the edge of our patrol zone. Jake turned his gaze to the forward screen. Empty space, but not empty anymore. Something waited out there. His crew watched him. Lisa Chen, the science officer and doctor, sharp eyes narrowed with curiosity. Ryan Foster, his second-in-command, calm but tense. Kevin Walsh from medical. Pete Collins, the engineer who could fix anything with duct tape and grit. Lauren Brooks, head of security, her hand already near the holster on her belt. A small crew, but good. Family in their way. Jake made his decision. Set course for the signal and send word to Earth Command. Tell them we've found something. The ship shifted, engines humming. Stars bent slightly as the Terra's Hope turned toward the unknown. 2 hours later, they found it. A ship. It hung in the void like a wounded beast. Its hull shimmered like crystal mixed with metal, glowing with faint blue lines that pulsed weakly, like a fatting heartbeat. Large sections were dark and broken. "Life signs?" Jake asked. Lisa scanned, her fingers racing. "Yes, Captain, multiple, but weak, very weak. They won't last long." "Any weapons?" Lauren's voice was firm. "Nothing active, power systems almost gone. If they had weapons, they're dead now." Jake looked at the alien vessel. So strange, so fragile, so close to death. He made his choice. "Ryan, take a small team. Lisa, you go too. Kevin, get medical ready. Bring them over, all of them." Amy hesitated. "Sir, should we wait for Earth Command? They'll want to know before we interfere." Jake stared at the dying ship. "Command is 3 days away by radio. These beings will be dead in 3 hours. We act now." Minutes later, Ryan's voice came through the comms. "Captain, you need to see this." Jake gripped his chair. "What did you find?" Ryan's voice was low, strained. 3 species, sir, all different, all in bad shape, scared, hungry. One of them is trying to talk, but we can't understand them." Jake's heart pounded. 3 species on one ship. That had never happened before. "Bring them over," he ordered. And as the Terra's Hope pulled the dying aliens into its arms, Jake Morrison felt something stirring in his chest. Excitement, fear, and a dangerous hope. They had just opened a door that could never be closed again. Cliffhanger, the first alien speaks through the translator. "You should not have saved us. The council will come." The medical bay smelled of disinfectant and warm circuitry. The Terra's Hope had never hosted anything like this before. Its beds were designed for humans, not for creatures that looked like walking stones, floating lights, or broken-winged insects. Yet here they were, 12 beings, alien, fragile, half-dead. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the glass wall, arms folded across his chest. He'd been through battles before. He'd seen men die in wars fought over scraps of rock in space, but this was different. These weren't soldiers. They weren't fighters. They were abandoned. Lisa Chen hovered beside him, her face pale but her eyes alive with wonder. "It's incredible," she whispered. 3 different species on one ship. That's never been recorded, not once." Jake didn't answer. He couldn't stop staring at them. The first group, 4 of them, looked like boulders carved into the rough shape of people. Their gray, jagged skin glistened faintly under the bay lights, as if dusted with quartz. Heavy limbs, powerful bodies, but they slumped like broken statues, their strength drained away. The second group, 5 beings of pure light, floated above the medical beds. Orbs of shimmering energy wrapped in faint, translucent shapes. At times their glow pulsed in rhythm, but it was dim, flickering like dying candles in the wind. The third group, three tall insectoids, lay curled on the floor mats. They had long, segmented limbs, chitin cracked and scarred. Their wings, once proud and shimmering, were torn and useless. Their mandibles clicked weakly, the sound like glass breaking. Kevin Walsh moved from patient to patient, brow furrowed. Vitals are weak, Captain. They're malnourished, dehydrated, stress levels off the charts, but they're still fighting to live. That's the only reason they lasted this long. Jake nodded slowly. Can we keep them alive? Kevin shrugged, glancing at the light beings with unease. For the stone and insect types, yes, food, fluids, maybe some reconstruction, but those energy things, he shook his head. I don't even know if they eat. Then learn, Jake said firmly. We're not losing them. Pete Collins, grease still smeared on his hands, arrived with a portable device. The translator. It was crude, 2 hours of frantic work, patched together from human linguistics software and the fragments of alien signals. But it was their only shot at talking. Lisa activated the device. Its metal shell hummed, lights flickering. She turned toward the largest stone being who sat upright now, its rocky chest rising and falling slowly. Try to speak, Lisa said gently. The creature's mouth cracked open, the sound like grinding boulders tumbling down a cliff. The translator stuttered, then finally spat out broken words. You help us, why? The bridge crew, watching from the observation deck, froze. Jake stepped forward, kneeling to meet the being's eye level. Its pupils glowed faintly, like embers deep in a cave. Because you needed it, Jake said softly. That's what we do. Humans help when others need it. The stone being tilted its head, crumbling dust falling from its face. We are cast out. Galaxy says we are bad. Why help bad ones? Jake frowned. Cast out by who? The being's voice deepened. The council, the great council that rules all. The words filled the room with weight. No one spoke for several seconds. Finally, Lisa asked, why did they cast you out? The answer didn't come from the stone being. One of the light creatures floated closer, its body flickering weakly. The translator struggled, but managed to produce a sound like wind chimes turned into words. We are sick, our light is wrong color, others fear us. Council says we spread sickness, they say die far away. The insect being hissed, mandibles clicking. The translator lagged, turning the sound into broken speech. We cannot sing the mind songs, our kind sing in the mind, we do not. Council says broken. Jake's chest tightened. Not soldiers, not criminals, not monsters, just different. Different and punished for it. He looked at them, eyes glowing or compound, shapes of light and shadow, watching him, waiting for his answer. You're not broken, Jake said firmly. You're alive, that's what matters. The stone being made a low rumble, almost like a laugh but hollow. Council will come, they always come, they will destroy you for helping us. Jake's jaw clenched. Let them try. Lisa touched his arm gently. Jake, her eyes searched his. If they're telling the truth, then we've just made ourselves a target for something far bigger than we understand. Jake looked back at the aliens. He saw more than fear in them now. He saw something fragile, something dangerous. Hope. Then we'll stand between them and the ones who would harm them, Jake said quietly. Because no one deserves to be left behind, not out here. Behind them, Amy's console beeped urgently. She turned pale. Captain, message from Earth Command. Jake straightened, on screen. The Admiral's face appeared, sharp and cold. Her voice carried iron. Captain Morrison, the Galactic Council has contacted us. They know you have their property. They demand you return it immediately. The word property hung in the air like poison. Jake's crew looked at him, Lisa's fists clenched. Kevin cursed under his breath. Ryan shook his head slowly. Jake stared at the screen, his heart pounded. Property. The beings in the medical bay were watching him through the glass, watching with eyes that had known only rejection. He drew a slow breath. My answer, he said, is no. The word hung in the air like poison. Property. Admiral Betty Kane's face was hard on the screen, the lines around her mouth pulled tight. The hum of the bridge seemed louder than before, like the ship had started to hold its breath. Captain Morrison, she said again, slower this time. The Galactic Council has contacted Earth. They say the beings you rescued are council property. They demand their return. Jake did not look at the screen. He looked through the glass wall into the medical bay at the 12 lives clinging to a second chance. The stone being who had spoken earlier sat upright now, chest heaving like a furnace. The light being closest to the wall pulsed in weak colors, a soft pink and blue. One of the insectoids rested its head against the frame of a bed, wings torn, mandibles still. Lisa Chen stood beside Jake, her jaw set. Ryan Foster had come up behind them, silent and watchful. Amy hovered at her station, her hands stiff on the console. Jake finally turned back to Kane. "Admiral, with respect, I don't return people to die." Kane's eyes flicked, but her face did not change. "They don't call it death," she said. "They call it disposal." Kevin let out a low, angry sound from the medical bay speaker. "They're not trash." "I know," Kane said, "but the Council controls thousands of worlds, trade routes, jump corridors, technologies we don't have. If we defy them on this, we could lose everything we've built in space." "And if we obey?" Jake asked. Kane didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was softer. "Then we lose something else." Silence pressed in. The stars on the forward screen stared back, cold and far away. "What does the president say?" Jake asked. "President Hayes is undecided," Kane said. "Half the colonial governors warn of war if we refuse the council. The other half warn of rebellion if we surrender the refugees. Everyone is shouting. No one is sleeping." "Does the council plan to visit Earth?" Amy asked. Kane nodded once. "A diplomatic ship is already on its way. ETA 2 weeks. They will come with their laws and their smiles, and they will ask again." "And if we say no?" Lauren Brooks asked from the security console. Kane's eyes were tired. "They'll stop smiling." The line clicked as the Admiral switched to a secure channel. The ship's lights seemed to dim for a breath. "Jake," Kane said, dropping the formality for the first time, "you're in a firestorm, I won't lie. They asked for you by name. They want the refugees. They want your crew for trial. They want a public apology and proof that we will follow their rules." "What rules?" Jake asked. "Their rules," Kane said, "all of them." "That's not much of an answer." "It's the only one we have." Jake ran a hand over his face. He felt the old scar along his jaw, the one he never talked about. A different war, a different choice. He had sworn, as a young man on a dying rock, that he would never follow orders that killed people just to keep the peace. "You want me to delay?" he said. Kane nodded. "Hold your position, stabilize your patients, keep communication logs clean, send me a full medical report. We need proof. If there's anything, that shows the council is wrong, it gives us leverage." "You're asking me to build a case," Lisa said. "I'm asking you to tell the truth so loudly that even politicians can hear it," Kane answered. Jake gave a thin smile. "That loud, huh?" "I know," Kane said. Then she looked past the camera, listening to someone in her office. When she faced them again, the Admiral mask was back. 2 weeks to a council delegation. Do not provoke them. Do not move beyond your patrol zone without authorization. This is not just your fight." Jake looked once more through the glass at the 12 beings who had nowhere else to go. "It is now," he said softly. The screen went dark. For a long time, no one spoke. "Briefing room," Jake said at last. 5 minutes. The wardroom was narrow, built for fast meals and short arguments. Today it would get the second. Ryan stood near the door, arms folded. Amy slid into a side chair with a tablet and stylus. Lauren set her pistol on the table, habit more than threat. Pete Collins came last, holding the translator unit like a wounded animal. Lisa was already there with a stack of scans and a face that burned. Jake remained standing. He looked around at all of them, the small ship family he had trusted with his life before, who now waited for him to explain the storm outside. "Okay," he said. "We're between a council blade and a political wall. The Admiral wants data. Lisa, talk." Lisa took a breath and touched her pad. The wall lit with 3 columns of images: stone, light, insect. Under each, green lines, graphs, and strange shapes the translator labeled in clumsy English. "Let's start with the stone beings," Lisa said. "They call themselves Cathar. Nearest human word would be bedrock. Their bodies are silicon-based, not carbon. They metabolize heavy minerals and heat. They're strong, very strong, but they're gentle by design, low baseline adrenaline, high cooperative markers, curious to a fault." Ryan lifted an eyebrow. How do you know they're gentle? Pete snorted. One of them apologized to the bulkhead for leaning on it too hard. Yes, Lisa said, dry. He called the ship a living friend. He also took one look at our gravity emitter and hummed the correct resonant frequency under his breath, from memory. Pete's head snapped around. He what? Lisa flicked to a clip. On the screen, a gray hand traced a coil. A deep, precise tone filled the wardroom, vibrating in their sternums. The gravity readout spiked, then steadied into perfect efficiency. That's not a defect, Pete whispered. That's a gift. Lisa nodded. Next, the light beings, they call themselves Luminari, their photonic life organized energy patterns with a lattice core. The council says these ones are sick because their light is the wrong color, but look here. She pointed to a simple graph anyone could read. There was a plague in their region a decade ago. It killed millions. These Luminari changed wavelength to survive. Their wrong color is immune. It's not illness, it's evolution. Kevin leaned forward, eyes wide. They outlasted the plague by changing themselves. And now they're stronger, Lisa said. Their energy signatures are stable, their cores are clear. If anything, they're healthier than their baseline species. Jake watched the data slide by, simple and clean. In his gut, something heavy shifted toward anger. And the insectoids? Lauren asked. Lisa moved to the third column. Zephyrians, their species has a group psychic chorus. Most Zephyrians sing in the mind and can be guided by a central song. These three cannot. The council calls them broken. She tapped a scan. But look at this. Their neural architecture is shielded. They can't be pulled by outside voices. They are immune to mind control. Lauren's fingers touched the sidearm without thinking. So they can't be turned by anyone. Exactly, Lisa said. Ryan exhaled. Council says defective. You say resistant, adaptive, and brilliant. I don't say it, Lisa replied. The scans say it, the tests say it, the beings say it with every breath they take. Amy's stylus scratched. Admiral Kane wanted truth that even politicians can hear. This is pretty loud. Jake nodded once. Good work. He looked around the table. So what's our move? Ryan's voice was calm. We keep them alive. We send the data to Earth. We follow orders and we don't take a shot until we have to. Lauren shook her head. And if the council doesn't wait, if they send a police unit ahead of the diplomatic ship? Pete grimaced. Then we find out if our shields can handle whatever they call a knock on the door. They all looked at Jake. He felt the ship under his boots, the soft thrum he knew better than any lullaby. He remembered a younger version of himself standing on a cratered plane, taking orders that felt clean until the shooting started. He remembered choosing the hard thing then, the thing that left a scar on his jaw and a mark on his record. He was older now, but not softer. We do 3 things, he said. First, we stabilize our guests. Kevin, you get every tool you need. If it doesn't exist, Pete builds it. Second, Lisa and Pete finish a translator that won't fall apart when someone sings at it wrong. I want clean statements in plain words from each being with scans to match. Third, Amy, you push a full report to Admiral Kane and President Hayes every 6 hours. No surprises from us. Amy nodded, stylus flying. And when the council calls us again. Jake turned toward the window. The medical bay lights painted 12 fragile shapes across the glass. We answer, he said, inhuman. They did not have to wait long. The council's second message arrived 4 hours later. It was cleaner than the first, colder. The figure who spoke did not give a name. It projected a face designed to be simple, smooth, and forgettable, like a mask meant for crowds. Human vessel designated Terra's Hope, the voice said. It was soft and even a doctor's tone that made the skin crawl. You have in your possession defective units. These units present a risk to public order and health. Return them to council custody. Failure to comply will result in sanctions. Jake did not sit. He stood in front of the camera with his crew at their stations behind him, as if the ship itself were speaking. These are not units, he said. They are people. They are under our protection. They will not be returned to anyone who intends to harm them. A pause, the mask did not blink. Your species has not been granted jurisprudence in matters of genetic conformity. Your refusal is noted. Lisa stepped into frame, slow and steady. Dr. Lisa Chen, Human Sciences, attached are medical scans and plain language summaries proving that the beings you call defective are, in fact, adaptive and healthy. Your claims of contamination are false. The council voice did not change. You lack the necessary credentials to evaluate council classifications. Kevin's laugh was a short, angry bark. We have eyes. Sanctions will be applied to your polity, the voice said, smooth as ice. Trade access revoked, transit lanes restricted, advisory warnings issued to affiliated species. And if we still refuse, Jake asked. The mask smiled without warmth. Then we will remove the problem from the root. The screen went dark. No one spoke. Lauren broke the silence. That wasn't a diplomat. No, Ryan said. That was a warning label. Amy's console chimed again. Earth is responding, patching in. President Catherine Hayes appeared on the screen. She wore a dark suit that looked like it had been slept in. Strands of hair had escaped a neat bun. The light behind her showed night in her office, or maybe it was always night there now. Captain Morrison, she said, we received your report. Admiral Kane briefed me. I wanted to tell you directly that I am proud of your crew. Thank you, Madame President, Jake said. She held up a hand, small and steady. I also need to be honest. We are in a tight place. The Council controls our trade routes, our treaties, our access to medical tech. Half the governors tell me to bow my head. The other half tell me to bare my teeth. Neither group will have to stand on your bridge when the guns light up. Understood, Jake said. And yet, Hayes said, her voice going soft, I remember a school in Lagos where we hid 5 children from soldiers who wanted to take them. We hid them in a food closet and sang to cover their breathing. She smiled without humor. I was 8. I keep thinking about that closet today. Silence, even the ship seemed to listen. Hayes straightened. I cannot make a final decision until my council is done screaming at each other. But I can give you this. You will not be ordered to return anyone to die. If sanctions fall, they fall. We will carry them. We have carried worse. Jake felt his throat tighten. Yes, ma'am. Send me more data, Hayes said. Send me the truth in simple words. Show me faces. Names if they can give them. Stories. I need to speak to the people. They need something to hold in their hands besides fear. We'll send it, Amy said. Thank you, Hayes said. She looked older than she had at the start of the call. And Captain, don't start a war while I'm on the line with the last of our trade partners. I'll do my best, Jake said. The link cut. Pete blew out a breath. So we're brave but broke. Maybe, Ryan said. Maybe not. People surprise you when someone draws a line. Speaking of lines, Lauren said, turning her chair, we still sit on the council. Amy's console chimed again, but different this time. Not an incoming call, a sensor tone, soft at first, then insistent. Her eyes widened, Captain picking up new signals, multiple. Jake moved to her side, council. She shook her head slowly. No matching configuration, no weapons active, power signatures low, very low. How many? Ryan asked. Amy's fingers danced. 6, no 8, wait 12, all along the patrol boundary. They're staggering in and out of long range. Some of them are barely moving. Kevin's voice cracked over the intercom. Patient stabilized for now, Captain. What's happening? Amy swallowed. They're broadcasting, not in words, in distressed tones, same pattern as the ship we rescued. Pete stared at the forward screen, where empty space began to fill with the faintest pinpricks of light, moving like tired birds. Lisa's hand found the back of a chair. She gripped it to stop her fingers from shaking. Jake lifted his head. He felt it before he said it, a cold wind blowing through the hallways of the world. They heard, he said. Amy nodded, eyes shining. Yes, sir. On the glass of the medical bay, the light being nearest the wall flickered, as if it, too, heard the faint songs of its kin arriving. Jake spoke, and his voice carried to every deck, every station, and through every wire. All hands prepare for incoming refugees. Medical triage to cargo bays 2 and 3. Engineering, spin up auxiliary power and heat. Security, open the outer hangar and stand relief corridors. We will not let them die at our door. The ship moved under them like a living thing, turning toward the first broken shape limping through the dark. Lauren checked the tactical display, then looked up at Jake. Sir, she said quietly, if there are this many already. Her voice trailed off. She didn't have to finish. Jake stared into the starfield, where more faint lights had begun to flicker on the edge of sight, like a far-off city waking from a long night. Then this is only the beginning, he said. The sensor tone climbed, not alarm now but a steady, urgent heartbeat. The docking bay of the Terra's Hope had never seen so many. Crates were shoved aside, tools scattered, medical stretchers lined in rows. The walls hummed with emergency power as dozens of beings shuffled inside, carried by human hands or supported by their own. The air filled with the sound of groans, clicks, hums, and voices so alien the translator lagged behind in confusion. Jake Morrison stood in the middle of it all, sleeves rolled up, boots sticky with spilled hydration fluid. His voice was raw from shouting orders, but he kept going. "Get those lights brighter, these ones feed on photons," he barked. "Walsh, triage priority to the weak flyers. Yes, the insectoids, they can't breathe in our mix. Collins, I need more heating coils now." Pete sprinted off swearing, dragging wires like tangled snakes. Kevin Walsh crouched by a Zephyrian, checking its pulse with a scanner in one hand and a human touch in the other. Lisa Chen knelt near a cluster of luminari, eyes locked on the soft glow dimming inside their lattice cores. And still more arrived. 8 ships, 12, 20. Damaged hulls limped into orbit, some guided by shaky engines, others towed in by the Hope's grapplers. The ships looked like skeletons in the dark, patched metal, cracked crystal, broken wings. None of them should have made it this far, yet they had. By the third day, more than 500 refugees filled the bays of the Hope, and the makeshift camps spreading on the colony world below. And still they came. Jake's boots echoed in the wardroom as he entered the next strategy meeting. He hadn't slept in 30 hours. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw rough with stubble. But there was no time for sleep. The room was filled. Ryan Foster leaned over a star map, jaw clenched. Amy Rodriguez scrolled through lists of incoming transmissions. Lisa's hair was tied back in a messy knot, her eyes rimmed with red, but her data sheets glowed with new discoveries. Lauren Brooks stood by the door like a statue, pistol at her hip. Pete Collins smelled of engine grease, dark circles under his eyes. And then on the side screen, President Catherine Hayes and Admiral Betty Kane joined via live link. Their faces looked older than they had only days before. Jake began without ceremony. "The trickle has turned into a flood. We've got 5,000 beings in our system now. Our bays are full, colonies are filling fast, and the signals keep coming. Every day another ship limps in." Ryan flicked the star map. Distress beacons pulsed across the edge of human space like scattered embers. "This isn't local, it's galactic. The whole outer rim knows now. They're coming to us because no one else will take them." President Hayes pressed her lips together. "And the council?" Amy answered. "Their delegation still tracks 2 weeks out, but chatter is rising. They're not happy. Intercepted comms call the refugees genetic waste. They're warning affiliated species to stay clear of human trade." "That's already hurting us," Kane said. Her voice was clipped, but the exhaustion showed. 3 stations have reported canceled shipments. Our food lines will feel it within weeks." Pete slammed a hand on the table. "So we starve to keep them alive? Is that what the council expects?" "They expect obedience," Lisa said flatly. Jake turned to her. "Show them what you've found." Lisa tapped her pad. The wall lit up with 3 glowing symbols. Cathar, Luminari, Zephyrian. She spoke quickly, her words sharpened by anger. "The council calls them defective. My scans say otherwise. The Cathar are adaptive learners, faster than any human baseline. The Luminari, wrong color, survivors are immune to plague. The Zephyrians who can't join psychic songs, they're immune to mind control. That's not weakness, that's strength. Evolution itself." She flipped to new data. "And more are arriving with different traits. I've met crystal beings who can resonate thoughts across any distance. I've met tree-like beings who store solar energy like living batteries. I've seen shapeshifters who refused to spy for the council and were cast out for having consciences." She turned sharply to the screens showing Hayes and Kane. "They are not broken, they are survivors, and the council lied." The room went silent. The president stared at the images, stone hands sketching blueprints in dust, light beings pulsing with stable glow, insectoids standing straighter with clear eyes. Finally, Hayes said, "So the council doesn't just abandon weakness, they abandon threats to their control." Lisa nodded. "Exactly." Ryan crossed his arms. "If that's true, then what they fear isn't defectives, it's evolution itself." Jake spoke quietly, but everyone heard him. "They're pruning the galaxy, cutting down anything that grows too strong." Kane's jaw tightened. If this information is right, then humanity is sitting on a powder keg. The Council will not allow this to spread. They'll either crush us or... The ship jolted as Amy's console shrieked. Incoming transmission, it's them. The Council's mask appeared on screen. Pale, smooth, inhuman. Human polity, it said. You shelter units designated for disposal. This is violation. Return them, or consequences follow. Jake stood in frame, arms crossed. They're not units, they're people, and we will not send them to die. The mask tilted slightly. You risk annihilation. You risk discovery, Lisa snapped. She shoved the medical scans into the channel, raw and unfiltered. We know your lies. These beings are stronger than their peers. You call them defective because you cannot control them. The mask didn't blink. Irrelevant, compliance is survival, defiance is extinction. Jake leaned forward, eyes burning. Then hear this. Humanity does not comply with tyranny. We do not abandon the helpless, and we will never return people to slavers no matter what crown they wear. The mask smiled, soft and terrible. Then humanity chooses war. The transmission cut. The wardroom sat in stunned silence, the hum of the ship filling the gap. Hayes' voice was low but steady. So be it. The days that followed shook the colonies. On New Texas, protests filled the streets. Signs read, "No one gets left behind." On Earth itself, crowds lit candles outside government halls, chanting for the refugees. Children held drawings of Cathar rock men and glowing luminari. Across New California, thousands linked arms in front of refugee shelters, daring the Council to come take them. But not all were united. Traders howled about broken contracts. Governors of border colonies warned of war they couldn't survive. Rumors spread of sabotage, of Council spies hidden among the arriving ships. The galaxy teetered on the edge of chaos. Inside the Terra's Hope, the refugees worked side by side with humans. Cathar engineers crawled into engine rooms, humming resonant notes that made reactors sing. Luminari floated near shield cores, pouring light into their veins. Zephyrians coordinated security drills, their immunity to psychic interference making them natural leaders. Jake watched it unfold, pride blooming in his chest despite the fear. For the first time, his ship felt less like a human vessel and more like something bigger, an ark. Still at night, when the corridors were quiet, he stood alone at the forward viewport and stared into the dark. Somewhere beyond those stars, a fleet was moving, bigger than anything humanity had ever faced. And it was coming. The call came 12 days after the first wave. Amy's console screamed with priority tones. Captain, long-range intercept just confirmed. It's them. Jake's throat went dry. How many? Amy's voice cracked. Over 1,000 ships, sir, Warfleet, heading straight for Earth. The bridge went silent. Lauren's hand went to her pistol out of reflex, though no bullet could stop what was coming. Pete slumped against his console, muttering curses. Lisa closed her eyes, lips trembling with fury. Ryan spoke the words none of them wanted to hear. They're not coming to negotiate, they're coming to end us. Jake's gaze stayed locked on the black window filled with stars. In his chest, fear twisted, but deeper still burned something harder. Resolve. Then we'll meet them, he said. His voice was calm, cold, ready. The refugees behind the glass lifted their heads as if they sensed it. The Cathar rumbled low. The Luminari brightened. The Zephyrians' antennae twitched in sharp focus. They had been cast out by the galaxy, but here they were home. And humanity would fight to keep it that way. The Warfleet was coming. The number burned across every console, every mind. 1,000 ships. Enough firepower to crack planets, enough soldiers to enslave 1,000 worlds. And they were coming for Earth. The bridge of the Terra's Hope was silent after Amy Rodriguez read the count. No one moved. No one breathed. The hum of the engines sounded like a funeral drum. Jake Morrison stood at the viewport, staring into the dark. He saw not stars, but the shadows of those ships already moving across the void. The Council hadn't threatened. They hadn't negotiated. They had declared judgment. Humanity had chosen defiance. Now came the price. Jake finally spoke, his voice low but firm. We can't outgun them, but maybe, just maybe, we don't have to. Everyone turned toward him. Ryan Foster frowned. Then what do we do? Jake looked at the medical bay through the glass wall. Inside, Cathar rock men hummed deep tones as they adjusted broken machinery. Luminari drifted above shield generators, glowing brighter as they poured light into circuits. Zephyrians moved with eerie precision, antennae flicking as they coordinated tasks without speaking. "We stop thinking of them as passengers," Jake said, "and start treating them as allies." The next day, the hangar of Terra's Hope became a training ground. Cathar engineers worked beside Pete Collins, crawling into reactors and bending heavy plating like clay. Their humming voices resonated with coils until the power flow stabilized. For every problem Pete muttered about, a Cathar had an answer, often faster than his own. "This is impossible," Pete whispered to Jake after one long shift. "Their minds, Captain, they see systems like music. They don't just fix engines, they tune them." Jake clapped his shoulder, then let them play. Meanwhile, the Luminari had turned the medbay into a radiant workshop. Their dim light had begun to brighten, steady and strong. Lisa watched in awe as they floated near the Hope's weapon systems, their energy pouring into capacitors. "Captain," she reported breathlessly, "they're powering our cannons, directly, no fuel draw, no capacitor lag. The weapons fire instantly when they touch the lattice." Jake raised an eyebrow. "How long can they keep that up?" One of the Luminari pulsed in response. The translator crackled, "Until the stars go cold." On the lower decks, Lauren Brooks oversaw the Zephyrians. She had been skeptical. Aliens immune to psychic manipulation sounded useful on paper, but she wanted proof. She got it. During drills, human recruits stumbled, commands crossing in confusion. The Zephyrians clicked and buzzed, antennae moving in complex rhythms. Within seconds, the whole group moved as one, precise and flawless. Ships on the tactical board danced in perfect coordination. Lauren leaned against the console, impressed despite herself. "They don't need radios," she muttered. They're the net itself." "Better than radios," Ryan said from her side. "They can't be jammed, they can't be hacked. No council trick will break that." The Zephyrian leader, Clickwhistle, turned his compound eyes toward them. The translator spoke slowly. "We could never sing the mind songs of our kind. Now we see maybe we were meant to sing with you." For the first time, Lauren smiled. It wasn't just the hope. Across the colonies, humanity opened its doors. Refugee camps turned into workshops, fields of tents buzzing with new ideas. Humans brought tools and factories. Refugees brought knowledge long buried by the Council. On New Arizona, Cathar builders redesigned human starships with resonance hulls that vibrated enemy fire into harmless light. On New Colorado, Luminari rewired planetary grids, making shields that ran forever. On Luna Station, Zephyrians drilled human fleets into formations tighter than any admiral had dreamed. Word spread, hope spread. And rebellion spread. The Resonanti, crystal beings who had arrived with the third wave, linked minds across the galaxy. Their voices carried to worlds thought lost to Council silence. Hidden colonies whispered back. Messages flew faster than light, not through machines, but through thought. In a single week, 17 worlds declared independence. 5 garrison fleets mutinied. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Council trembled. Jake stood in the War Council chamber of the Hope, surrounded by humans and aliens alike. Star maps glowed above the table, littered with red and green markers. Red for Council strongholds, green for rebel uprisings. Admiral Kane's voice cut through the static. "It's spreading faster than we can track. Every day another world rises, but rebellion doesn't mean survival. The Council's main fleet still comes for Earth. They'll make an example of us. If we fall, the galaxy falls with us." President Hayes appeared beside her, her tired face alight with grim fire. "Then we don't fall. Humanity didn't ask for this fight, but we're in it. And now we have allies, an army the Council never wanted the galaxy to see. Captain Morrison, you started this when you opened your doors. Now you'll help lead it. How do we win?" The room quieted. Dozens of eyes turned to Jake, human, stone, light insect. He felt the weight, heavier than any he had carried before. He pointed to the star map. "We can't match their numbers, but we can match what they don't have, trust. They rule with fear, they control by division. They don't understand what it means to stand shoulder to shoulder with someone different and fight for the same dream." He turned to the refugees. "We'll forge something they can't crush, not a fleet, not an army, an alliance." Doc Venn, the Cathar leader, rumbled in approval. "A wall of stone." Brightsong, the Luminari, pulsed brighter. "A river of light." Clickwhistle twitched his wings. A chorus of freedom. Jake nodded. Together we fight as one. The training began at once. Ships that had never shared a hangar now docked side by side. Humans walked metal decks beside stone feet. Luminari drifted through corridors, leaving trails of color. Zephyrians clicked commands as humans adjusted their controls. At first, it was chaos. Human captains balked at Cathar engineers rewiring their reactors. Marines flinched at Luminari floating overhead. Dockhands shouted when Zephyrians overrode traffic signals with alien precision. But slowly, friction became rhythm. By the fifth day, fleets moved like a single hand. Cathar-tuned reactors made ships faster. Luminari-powered cannons struck harder. Zephyrian coordination made maneuvers flawless. Pete Collins watched the tactical board in awe. "Captain, they've turned our fleet into something we've never had before." Lisa smiled faintly. "They've turned us into one people." But the council was watching too. Amy's console lit with intercepted transmissions. She paled as she read them aloud. Council High Command reports, confirm rebellion spreading. Confirm humans integrating defectives. They call us a contagion. They say we're infecting the galaxy. "Then let them fear the infection," Jake said. But Amy's voice trembled as she read the last line. Council orders, accelerate Warfleet. New ETA, 5 days. The room froze. 5 days. Not 2 weeks, not 10, 5. Ryan cursed under his breath. They're not waiting for negotiations. They're coming now. Lisa's hands shook. 5 days isn't enough. We need more time to train, to build, to prepare. Jake cut her off. His voice was calm, steel under strain. Then we'll do it in 5. He turned to the fleet window. Refugee ships filled the void outside, patched and scarred but alive. Human warships hovered near them, bristling with new fire. Together they looked like a patchwork wall against the night. Jake straightened, eyes hard. "All hands hear me," he said over shipwide comms. His voice echoed through every deck, every camp, every tent across the colonies. "The Council comes with 1,000 ships to end us, but we are not alone. We are many. We are human and Cathar and Luminari and Zephyrian. We are outcasts and builders, healers and fighters, and we are done kneeling." The comms roared with responses. Stone rumbles, light pulses, insect clicks, human cheers. For the first time, Jake felt it. The Council wasn't facing a species. They were facing a movement. Night fell on New Arizona Colony. Refugee fires burned in the valley, glowing like constellations. Jake walked alone to the ridge, watching the stars. He thought of Earth, of home, of the weight pressing closer every second. Behind him, Doc Venn's heavy steps crunched the soil. The stone being lowered himself beside Jake, silent for a long moment. Finally, Doc said, voice deep and rough, "You humans are strange. When we were cast out, we thought no one would ever want us. Then you said you will fight for us, even die for us. Why?" Jake watched the stars. "Because you needed help, and that's who we are." Doc rumbled low, like stone shifting in a cave. "Then maybe that is your strength. Not ships, not weapons, but this." Jake turned his head. "This." Doc tapped his rocky chest. "Heart." The night was quiet again, but far off, faint on the horizon of space, scanners picked up a flicker. The first edge of the Council fleet. The day arrived. 5 days had raced past in a blur of frantic drills, last-minute modifications, and sleepless nights. The alliance had grown tighter, sharper, more unified with each hour. But no one pretended they were ready. Not really. Because nothing could truly prepare them for what came out of the dark. Amy's voice was barely more than a whisper. "Captain, they're here." On the forward screen, space itself seemed to tear open. One after another, vast ships dropped out of hyperspace. Black metal, sharp angles, cold lights. They came in waves, filling the void like a storm front. 1,000 warships. Even seasoned officers went pale. Some refugees shivered in silence. The Luminari dimmed, their glow flickering with remembered terror. The Cathar rumbled uneasily, stone shoulders tightening. The Zephyrians clicked in nervous staccato. Jake Morrison stood tall at the center of the bridge. His heart hammered, but his voice was steady. "All stations report." "Human fleet, 500 ships ready," Ryan said. "Refugee vessels, 300 integrated, 200 more in support," Amy added. "Shields holding, weapons charged." Lauren's eyes flicked across her console, every hand armed. Jake's gaze lingered on the window. He remembered Kane's warning, if we fall, the galaxy falls with us. Not today. Patch me through to the fleet, Jake said. The comms lit. His voice carried into every ship, every corridor, every heart. Allies of the Alliance, he began. You know who waits before us. The Council calls us defective, broken, worthless, but look at us. Humans, Cathar, Luminari, Zephyrians, Resonanti, and more, outcasts they called us, yet here we stand together. He paused, he let them feel the silence, the weight of history pressing down. We fight not just for Earth, he said. We fight for every world the Council drained, every voice they silenced, every child they cast into the dark. Today we show them what happens when the outcasts stop running. Cheers thundered across the comms. Stone rumbles, light pulses, insect clicks, human voices. Jake raised his hand. All ships prepare for battle. The Council fleet moved first. Beams of raw energy lashed out, white spears stabbing across space. The Alliance fleet braced, shields flared, ships shuddered, alarms screamed. Direct hits across the line, Lauren shouted. Shields down 20%. Jake's voice cut through the chaos. Solari now. On dozens of Alliance ships, the tall tree-like Solari beings spread their metal-light branches. Their bodies absorbed the energy, glowing brighter, hotter, until they pulsed like suns. Then, in perfect timing, they released it back. Council beams ricocheted across space, doubled, redirected. The first line of enemy ships staggered, shields flaring and collapsing. Pete Collins whooped. Captain, their fire just bounced back. We turned their weapons against them. Jake allowed himself a grim smile. Good, hit them again. The Alliance opened fire. Human cannons roared, powered by Luminari light. Resonant notes from Cathar engineers tuned the weapons into harmony, amplifying their force. The Zephyrians coordinated formations, weaving ships like dancers. Council ships exploded in brilliant bursts, 1, 2, 5, 20. But the Council was not built on weakness. They regrouped fast, lines tightening, weapons focusing. A fresh volley hammered into the Alliance flank. 3 human ships broke apart, torn into fire and wreckage. A refugee vessel spun out of control, flames streaking its hull. Jake's chest clenched, every loss felt like a knife. Rescue crews, pull survivors now. Council ships pressed harder, more fire, more destruction. The Alliance shields flickered, strained. Captain, their flagship is locking weapons on Earth, Amy shouted. Jake's blood ran cold. He saw it, one massive ship, larger than cities, its core glowing with terrible light. A planet-killer weapon. Target that ship, Jake barked. All Alliance vessels converge fire. The fleet responded. Cannons lit the void. Luminari glowed white-hot, pouring themselves into the fight. Resonanti pulsed, linking thoughts across every ship, moving the fleet as one mind. The Council flagship staggered. Shields buckled, its weapon flickered. Almost there, Pete shouted. One more push. Then betrayal. From within the Council flagship, shapes stirred. Nebulan shapeshifters revealed themselves, disguised infiltrators planted years before. They sabotaged from the inside, ripping through conduits, tearing at core controls. The massive ship convulsed. Its weapons sputtered, then detonated. The explosion lit the void brighter than a star. The shockwave rattled every hull, sent ships tumbling. Refugees cried out. Humans shielded their eyes. When the light faded, the Council flagship was gone. Cheers erupted across the Alliance comms, but Jake didn't cheer. He knew the battle was far from over. Captain, Maria Santos said from her science station, voice tight. We're reading massive energy spikes. Council reinforcements, no, not reinforcements, activating reserves. New ships, hundreds of them. On the screen, fresh waves of Council warships uncloaked, black wings stretching like a second stormfront. Amy's voice broke. Another 500 ships, maybe more. The bridge went silent. Ryan whispered the truth. They still outnumber us 2-1. The Council counterattack slammed into the Alliance line like a hammer. Ships scattered. Explosions flared. Alarms wailed. On the Terra's Hope, sparks rained from overhead conduits. Smoke filled the bridge. Lauren shouted over the chaos. Shields at 40%. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Seal them, Jake barked. Through the haze, he saw refugee ships struggling. One Cathar vessel cracked open, stone beings singing a last resonant chord before the void swallowed them. A luminary cluster dimmed until only faint sparks remained. The council pressed mercilessly. "Captain," Lisa said, eyes wide at her scanner. "They're trying to break our coordination, jamming our signals." Jake slammed his fist against the console. "Zephyrians, override." Clickwhistle's voice came through, buzzing with fierce resolve. "Chorus holds. We sing louder than their silence." Across the fleet, Zephyrians linked minds, immune to council interference. Ships moved as one again. Coordination restored. "Target their flanks," Jake ordered. "Hit them where they don't expect." The Alliance surged, slicing into council formations. Ships exploded, black metal torn apart by combined fire. For every Alliance loss, 3 council ships fell. Still, the tide threatened to crush them. On the forward screen, another council dreadnought lined up Earth in its sights. Its weapon began to charge, the glow building like a second sun. "Captain," Amy shouted. Jake's stomach twisted. He saw the faces of billions back home. Children lighting candles, protesters in the streets, families watching the sky. He couldn't let it happen. "All ships protect Earth," he roared. The Alliance surged. Human ships dove in front, shields flaring as they absorbed fire. Luminari poured light into the defense, their cores burning like supernovas. Solari stretched their branches wide, absorbing the dreadnought's energy. And then resonant voices filled every mind, calm and steady. "Together, strike together." Every ship fired at once. The dreadnought erupted in fire, splitting in 2 before it could fire its weapon. Cheers shook the comms, but Jake barely heard them. His eyes were locked on the tactical board. So many red blips remained, too many. And then something new. Maria gasped. Captain signals from across the galaxy, dozens, hundreds. On the screen, fresh green markers appeared. Rebel fleets, independent worlds, species long enslaved, now rising in open revolt. "They're joining us," Maria whispered. "The Council's own outcasts, they're answering the call." Jake felt hope ignite like fire in his chest. The Council fleet wavered. For the first time, they faltered. But as the battle raged, one final message cut across every channel. A voice filled with venom and authority. "I am Supreme Hegemon Vex Kaplan," it said. The image appeared on screen, a tall, pale being in black robes, crown of metal burning with cruel light. His eyes were pits of cold fire. "You defy the Council, you harbor filth, you think you can win, but this war is not over. You have not seen our true power." And behind him, deep in the dark, sensors picked up something massive, larger than any ship before, a fortress ship, a weapon designed not to fight fleets but to destroy entire worlds. Amy's voice cracked. "Captain, it's headed straight for Earth." Jake's fists clenched, his voice was steel. "Then we stop it or we die trying." The fortress ship loomed against the stars. It was larger than any vessel humanity had ever seen, larger even than Earth's orbital stations combined. Black armor stretched for kilometers, jagged like a claw carved from the void itself. Hundreds of glowing ports lined its hull, each one a cannon capable of leveling cities. And at its core pulsed a terrible light, building like the slow inhale of a god preparing to speak destruction. On the bridge of the Terra's Hope, silence pressed in heavy and suffocating. Every eye stared at the tactical screen. Every ear rang with the echo of the Hegemon's words, "You have not seen our true power." Jake Morrison's heart pounded so hard he thought the others might hear it. His hands gripped the rail. He forced his voice to stay calm. "Report." Amy's voice trembled. "Fortress ship weapons charging, 30 minutes until full discharge." Lisa's face was pale. "Captain, if it fires, Earth is gone, one shot." The words seemed to freeze the air. Earth, home, billions of lives, everything they were fighting for. Jake swallowed. "Then we don't let it fire." The Alliance surged into motion. Human ships dove toward the fortress, cannons blazing. Luminari poured light into their cores, firing beams bright enough to burn holes through dreadnoughts. Cathar resonance tore through armor, shaking smaller ships apart. Zephyrians wove formations so tight the Council gunners struggled to track them. But the fortress ship didn't flinch. Its shields shimmered like liquid steel. Alliance fire splashed across it, brilliant but useless. Return fire lashed out, spears of white energy that shredded the front lines. Ships died screaming, dozens at once. On the Hope's bridge, alarms wailed. 2 Cathar cruisers destroyed, Amy shouted. Zephyrian frigates down, Lauren snapped. We're losing them, Captain. The fortress pulsed again, its light swelling. Lisa's voice was barely audible. 20 minutes. Jake's jaw clenched. They couldn't match it head-on, not with fire, not with speed, but maybe. He spun toward Pete Collins. Their shields, weakness. Pete swore, not normal shields, they're alive, self-healing. Every time we hit them, they drink it in and get stronger. Then we stop hitting them, Jake muttered. His eyes darted across the bridge, his mind racing. The fortress drank power, but what if it was forced to choke? Lisa, can the Luminari overload them? Her eyes widened. If enough of them linked together, yes, they could flood the shield with pure light until it collapses. Jake turned to the glowing beings drifting on the other side of the glass. They pulsed nervously, but he felt their eyes on him. "Tell them what's at stake," he said softly. Lisa's voice caught, but she nodded. She spoke through the translator, her words trembling but clear. "If the fortress fires, Earth dies, we need you, all of you." The Luminari pulsed brighter. One by one, they floated forward, gathering into formation outside the Hope. A constellation of living light ready to burn. Jake felt a pang in his chest. He knew what it meant, sacrifice. "Doc Venn," he called to the Cathar leader. "If the shields fall, can your people punch through?" The stone being rumbled like shifting mountains. "We will break their bones." "Click whistle," Jake turned to the Zephyrian. "Can your chorus hold the fleet together while they do it?" The insectoid's antennae twitched sharply. "We will sing until silence takes us." Jake drew a long breath. "Then that's the plan." The assault began. Hundreds of Luminari joined hands, or the glowing, shimmering equivalent of hands. Their bodies pulsed in rhythm, brighter, hotter, until space itself seemed to glow. They hurled their light into the fortress shields. At first, nothing happened. The black armor drank it greedily, but the Luminari did not stop. They pulsed harder, faster, united. The fortress shields began to ripple, then crackle, then scream. On the Hope's bridge, Lisa's eyes filled with tears. "It's working, oh my God, it's working." But outside, the Luminari dimmed. One by one, their glow faltered. Too much, too fast. They were burning themselves out. "Hold, damn you," Pete whispered. Finally, the fortress shields collapsed. The black armor flickered naked and vulnerable for the first time. "Cathar now," Jake roared. Stone ships surged forward. Cathar voices boomed across the void, resonant notes so deep they shook hulls. They focused their tones on weak points, harmonies breaking the fortress's armor apart. Cracks spiderwebbed across its skin. Massive chunks tore free, spinning into the abyss. Inside the fortress, explosions rippled like thunder. The hegemon's voice cut through every channel, filled with fury. "You dare, you dare." "Zephyrians," Jake barked. The insect chorus clicked as one. Across the fleet, ships moved like a single creature, striking in perfect synchronization. Dreadnoughts fell, carriers burned. The fortress staggered, but still it lived. The core pulsed again, brighter than before. Lisa's voice broke. "Captain, it's still charging, 10 minutes. Jake felt time slipping away. Their attacks had wounded it, but not enough. If that weapon fired, Earth was ash. He turned slowly toward the Resonanti, the crystal beings who linked minds across the galaxy. They stood silent at the back of the bridge, their bodies shimmering faintly. "Can you reach inside?" Jake asked. "Can you disrupt the core?" The Resonanti pulsed in unison. "Yes, but if we enter, we may not return." Jake's throat tightened. "If you don't, billions die." The Resonanti nodded once, then they vanished in light. Moments later, the fortress convulsed. Its weapons sputtered, stuttered. The core's glow flickered as if caught in a storm. The Resonanti were inside, tearing at its mind, breaking its order. "Now," Jake shouted, "all ships, every gun, every blade, strike." The Alliance unleashed hell. Cannons roared, missiles streaked. Resonant tones shattered armor. Zephyrians wove chaos. Luminari poured the last of their light. Humans fought like demons, every hand burning, every heart refusing to yield. The fortress groaned, its armor split, its core cracked. On the main screen, the hegemon himself appeared, robes torn, crown sparking. His eyes burned with hatred. "You think this changes anything?" he spat. "We ruled for 10,000 years. You are insects. You are nothing." Jake stared at him unflinching. "We're human, and we don't abandon each other." The fortress screamed. Light burst from its core, blinding, devouring. The hegemon's voice cut off in static. And then silence. When the light faded, nothing remained of the fortress but drifting wreckage. The Council's warfleet broke. Ships scattered, fleeing into the dark. The Alliance chased them, but most were too busy cheering, crying, holding one another in disbelief. They had done it against impossible odds. They had survived. Weeks later, the war was over. The Council crumbled. Rebellion spread like wildfire, fueled by resonant voices carrying truth. World after world declared freedom. No fleet came to stop them. No voice claimed dominion. The age of control had ended. On the former Council capital, a new chamber rose. Not a throne room, but a hall of voices. Stone pillars carved by Cathar. Light windows shaped by Luminari. Networks woven by Zephyrians. Human banners hung alongside alien symbols. The Confederation of Free Worlds was born. Jake stood in that chamber beside Lisa, Ryan, Pete, Lauren, Amy, his crew, his family. Around them stood allies once called defective. Doc Venn, Brightsong, Clickwhistle, the Resonanti who had survived. Together they had forged something new. President Hayes raised her hand, voice strong. No more outcasts, no more defectives. In this confederation, difference is strength. Unity is choice. Every being has a voice. Cheers filled the chamber. Doc Venn rumbled low to Jake. You humans are strange. You fought for us when no one else would. Now the galaxy follows your example. Jake smiled faintly. We didn't fight for power, we fought for people. That's the only fight that matters. Brightsong pulsed warmly. And because of you, we shine brighter. Clickwhistle clicked rapidly. Because of you, our chorus has a new song. Jake looked around the chamber. Beings of stone and light. Insects and crystals, trees of metal and shapeshifters. Humans standing beside them, not above them. Equal, free. It had started with 12 dying aliens in a broken ship. Now it had become a galaxy reborn. He turned to the viewport. Stars glittered beyond, endless and waiting. Somewhere out there, he knew others still needed help. He spoke softly, words only his crew heard. When someone needs help, you help them. That's who we are. That's the human way. Ryan smiled. Looks like it's the Galactic way now. Jake nodded. Then let's make sure it stays that way. The stars burned brighter. A new dawn had come. And it was only the beginning.